Hello. Today I would like to talk to you about 7 secrets of highly successful developers. So first, a little bit about myself. My name is Maida. I am the Vice President of Developer Relations at Ionic. I'm also a keycap and miniature artist in my free time. And in a past life, I was actually a biologist. Now, we're developers, so what's our ecosystem like? Well, first of all, we work in tech, and tech is an incredibly fast-paced industry. There are constantly new tools, new libraries, frameworks, trends, best practices to keep up with. So what this means is we're constantly bombarded by new information. We're constantly learning new things. And as developers in tech, what challenges do we face when we are on a journey to become successful in our careers and in our lives? Well, one thing that can come up in such a fast-paced industry is feeling left behind. When things move so quickly, we can often feel like we're not learning quickly enough to keep up. Essentially, this can result in something which is a phenomenon of keeping up with the Joneses. So I want to talk a little bit about the origin of this phrase. Keeping up with the Joneses was actually a comic written by Arthur Pop Moment, and it ran from 1913 to about 1940. And this comic was about the social climbing family of Aloysius and Clarice McGinnis. And the McGinnises had neighbors named the Joneses, and they were constantly comparing themselves to the Joneses. For example, in this panel, Clarice is saying, "Look at Mrs. Jones. She goes to matinees, she entertains, she wears wonderful clothes, she gets something out of life." Now, this concept of keeping up with the Joneses can also resonate with us in the tech industry. Maybe let's swap out that panel for something like this. Maybe Clarice nowadays is saying, "Look at Mrs. Jones. She keynotes conferences, she writes a blog post every week, she was promoted to principal architect, she gets something out of life." And this can be a sensation that we get in tech when we're constantly inundated with things on social media and things we see on the web in general. And feeling like we should be keeping up with the Joneses can also make us feel a pretty extreme pressure to learn everything. And ultimately, this can lead to a fear of missing out. So fear of missing out, or affectionately abbreviated often as FOMO, can manifest itself when new technologies just pop up incredibly quickly. The developer ecosystem honestly can be quite overwhelming. There's the pressure to learn new frameworks, new libraries, new testing, entire tech stacks, so on and so forth. And we become afraid that if we don't learn anything, we're going to fall behind, or we're going to miss something important, or maybe we won't be as marketable in the career. So developers have demanding jobs, and this can also lead to other things like long hours, or having very few opportunities in our workday to kind of take a step back and rest our brains a little bit. And ultimately, that can result in burnout. So burnout is characterized often by several things. It can be a lack of motivation. It can also include mental, emotional, and definitely physical exhaustion. This can lead to depression, anxiety, feelings of worthlessness, dread, going to work, a loss of passion for the things that would normally excite you. So what do we do? How do we take these challenges and meet them head on and then move to the point where we can prevent or overcome them? Well, today I want to talk about 7 tips in order to help you achieve balance between happiness, fulfillment, and also career acceleration. So here are 7 secrets of highly successful developers. But before I get too far down this road, I want to talk about what highly successful even means. Personally, I strongly feel that having personal fulfillment and satisfaction and feeling good about what you're doing are extremely important to being successful. And you can make a lot of money, you can get a bunch of promotions, but if you don't feel good about it, then are you actually successful? Also, we want to make sure that we have an upward trending career trajectory. This sort of accounts for things like having the opportunity to progress our career, to achieve new goals, to basically feel like you're going somewhere. And finally, we also want an upward trending reward trajectory, because honestly, we work for money. If we weren't getting paid, most of us wouldn't work. So let's get to it. So I talked about the temptation to compare yourself to other people, the people who surround you in your daily life, or the people who you follow on Twitter, the people who are your coworkers or your friends on LinkedIn. But really, you should focus on comparing yourself to one person, and that person is the person that you were yesterday, or last week, or a year ago. Let me give you a hypothetical example of this. Let's say that you have a friend who's also a developer, and they keep talking about creating a design system with web components. They keep telling you, this is really important, you should definitely look into it, here's, some of the technologies you could use to do it, you should really learn this. And this sounds really interesting to you. It is maybe in your wheelhouse, but there's a definite cognitive burden to taking on a new endeavor like this, not to mention the hours that you would spend learning, refining, getting familiar with new technologies. And maybe, in fact, you just learned something new this week. Maybe you learned how to use a new state management library. Still, the design system thing does sound really neat. It sounds useful. You don't have time at work to do it, but you're tempted to spend late nights looking into it. Step back. You should recognize that you just learned a new library for state management. That's something that you didn't know a month ago. So what you should really focus on doing is acknowledging the progress that you've made, the accomplishments that you've achieved. Celebrate those. You are the only benchmark that should really matter when you're measuring yourself and your successes. So take a moment to write down the successes, write down the achievements as they happen. And then go back in a month, go back in 3 months or 6 months. Review what you've accomplished, and I guarantee you will impress yourself. We often move so quickly in tech that we forget all of the things that we've learned and all of the things that we've done. So I talked about sort of checking in every few months. Another thing that you could do is set personal goals, and these are a good thing to do about every 3 months. And when you're setting goals, try to remember that the reason you're doing this is not to create more stress for yourself. It's not to create more pressure. So choose goals that appeal to your passions, things that you know that you have sort of the impetus to follow through on. And also, don't set goals that you suspect you're not going to be able to achieve. Because the point is to pick things that help you accomplish things that you can be proud of, and to have sort of a marked track of the progress that you've made. Here's some examples of 3-month goals that could be pretty good ones. You could apply to join an experts program. You could contribute to a community that you care about. Write a blog post. You could speak at a meetup. Ask someone you admire for career advice, or discuss your personal career growth with your manager. Then what you're going to want to do is make sure that you revisit your goals every few months. Check in with yourself. If you didn't meet your goals, maybe they were unrealistic, or maybe the timing just wasn't great. So you can create new goals, and if you still feel strongly about some that you didn't finish, carry over those unfinished goals. However, if the same goal continues to stay on the list and remain unfulfilled, then think about if it can be broken into smaller, more accomplishable parts. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you're going to get with doing it. Number 3, share your wins. I really encourage you not to be shy about this. Sharing wins with the right audience at the right time got a lot of extraordinarily successful people to the point that they are at today. And arguably the most important way to share your wins is with your boss. Managers want to do right by their team members. They want to be a good boss, and they want to make sure that their team members are being rewarded and that they are helping them succeed in their career. And a good boss will try their best to note and reward your successes without micromanaging you. But so much happens outside of the line of sight of your supervisor. Maybe, for example, you debugged a difficult issue. Maybe you helped a coworker. Maybe you programmed a really challenging feature, or shipped a patch, or received praise from someone for a presentation that you did. Now, your boss might know about some of these things, but they're definitely not going to know about all of them, unless you share with them. And then the result is increased recognition, and recognition can then lead to things like promotion. It can lead to performance comp increases, bonuses, recommendations, and a lot more. The other thing you can do with sharing your wins is to do it publicly. Do it publicly on professional networks, and you can do this in a variety of ways. You could write blog posts, you could speak about lessons that you've learned from your successes, and it might sound like shameless self-promotion, but when it's done in a way that actually benefits other people, it will get you noticed. And the public space is watched by people of influence. And these people could potentially support you, they could sponsor you, they could promote you and your activities. So when you share your wins and people respond, make sure that you're engaging. Reply, make conversations, forge connections. This leads to the cultivation and fostering of relationships. And this is especially important right now since we have been in COVID, we've been isolated for a long time. Connecting with people online can be very illuminating. Now, I want to share this tweet from Kelly Vaughn. And Kelly says, I don't want to come off as bragging, but no, stop, remove that. Please share your accomplishments. You're allowed to be publicly proud of what you've achieved. You earned it. So there's nothing wrong with being proud of our successes. We deserve the validation that we get for the blood, the sweat, the tears, and the tremendous hard work that we put into the things that we do. Number 4 is be kind. And it sounds overly simple to say, well, just be kind, just be nice to people, but kindness goes a very long way. And the tenets of kindness are pretty straightforward. First is empathy, having empathy for people who might be facing challenges. Having compassion, even and especially when you disagree with someone. And also having patience and understanding for the points of views of other people. Everyone that we know is fighting their own battles, and being kind can make a huge difference to people. Also, people notice kindness and they repay it. If you're a pleasant person to engage with, then people enjoy and look forward to interacting with you. This is true both at work and in public spaces such as online, at events, in the tech community, so on and so forth. Being kind also makes you approachable to people that you're looking to build a connection with. It makes you appealing to people that you're trying to network with, and it makes you memorable, which also leads to being more likely to being reached out to in the future. Number 5 is get uncomfortable. Now, by sort of the very definition of the word uncomfortable, nobody enjoys being uncomfortable, but we often grow the most when we venture outside of our comfort zone. There's more to gain when we try things that are going to stretch us a little bit. So try something new. And this might be something like speaking at a meetup or a conference. It might be something like building something new with technology or a language or a framework that you've never used before. Or it might mean taking on a job that you've never done before. I want to talk a little bit more about this one, because if you find yourself repeatedly applying jobs that you're fully qualified for, or even overqualified for, then ask yourself, do you have room to grow there? Is it going to be an interesting challenge? Is it going to further your career? It might end up being a temporary change of pace, but then not more than that. So try applying for jobs you actually haven't done before. And if the title is the same as sort of the title that you have now, at least look for an expansion of responsibilities. This can really lead people to go in different directions. Personally, I was a classically trained biologist. I then went into engineering. I then left my job as an engineering manager and took on a technical content writing role. And I loved it. And this eventually led me into developer relations and then sort of up the leadership ladder until I am now a VP of DevRel. So ultimately, that step of trying something I'd never done before, led me to where I am now. So try things that are outside of your comfort zone, but don't do it at the cost of your well-being. This is important because we don't want you to go through undue stress when trying things, and we want you to sort of feel good about. And you know yourself best, but also know that trying things that make you a little bit uncomfortable can bring you tremendous fulfillment. It can take you in new directions in your career, and it can bring you great personal success to try new things. You'll be initially uncomfortable, but you'll gain significant rewards for it. The key to this is balance, and to find that balance, you really kind of need to explore it for yourself. Number 6 is reach out. And once you've implemented the other strategies, I encourage you to reach out to people you admire. Seek out advice, mentorship, sponsorship. But there's a reason that this is number 6 in the list, because I don't want you to do it prematurely. If you reach out before you've invested your own time in your own personal growth, then doing this can backfire a little bit. So you can reach out to your extended network, and when connecting with someone you don't have a previous relationship with already, you should try to be pretty specific. So when you reach out to one of these people in an extended network, try to focus on one topic to ask their advice on. Try to ask about something that's fairly unique, maybe something that isn't what everyone else asks about. And also be understanding. Don't take it personally if they don't respond or if they indicate to you that they're too busy. Many popular community influencers get dozens of requests and messages per day, and they just can't sort of keep up with that amount of volume. You can also reach out to people who are in your close network. So when you're connecting with someone you work with, or someone who's maybe known for their willingness to mentor people, then you should first establish intent. Share what kind of a connection you're hoping to make with them. Tell them what they've done that you admire. Then tell them what you've done so far in order to grow yourself. Share what you think your next steps are, and start small. Maybe ask for a quick video call, or if they're local, a chat over coffee. Directly reaching out to people to forge connections is an incredibly valuable thing to do, and getting good at it is a very valuable skill to have as well. Number 7 is celebrate milestones. And this is not the same as sharing wins. Celebrating milestones is specifically for you. When you achieve something, make sure you take the time to give yourself credit for it. Feel good. Celebrate it. This can be important for big events like getting a new job, or smaller milestones. Maybe you learned something new at work. And for example, this can be pretty closely related to achieving the personal goals that you set for yourself. So remember, we talked about goal setting toward the beginning of the talk. And when you achieve these goals, take the time to celebrate it and feel good about yourself, because you're never going to end up feeling fulfilled if you don't actually take that opportunity to recognize the things that you've accomplished and reward yourself for your own hard work. Finally, there's a bonus here. And the bonus is invest in self-care. It's very important to do what you love. And I really like this infographic from Liz and Molly. And it says, what I thought would make me productive, it's 100% hard work. And then what actually does. This is a mix of hard work, taking time off to invest in self-care, sleeping, eating healthy, exercising, engaging in hobbies, things like that. So do what you love. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live, breathe, eat, sleep coding or something like that. You can have hobbies that are not related to coding, that are not related to work. But there's no point in having these hobbies if you don't reserve time to engage in them. So make sure that you're keeping time for yourself, keeping time to do things that make you personally happy. And of course, also celebrate the time that you have with your loved ones, pets, family members, friends, people who make you happy in your life. And I hope these tips are useful for you in advancing your goals and career, as well as gaining a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment from the things that you do. Now, the slides are available here. I love chatting with people on Twitter here. Please hit me up if you have any questions or comments. And I really appreciate you taking the time today to listen. So thank you very much.